I'm putting it together, bro. I'll let you know what it's done. I want to do it all four, but you know what I'm saying. Matthew taking so long, I might just jump the gun and be like, just read Matthew. You know what I'm saying. I got a guide to Matthew.
You know what I'm saying? I get at you about the other ones later.
Right. I'm gonna have it for her knock it up whenever she start reading again. You know what I'm saying. So it'll be way easier for her.
Word with Sabbath peace.
Sabbath peace.
It's another opportunity for us to come together and hear and learn of the word of truth that's given to us by the Most High God. All honor goes to the Father through the Son, whose name is Yahushua. In him lies the only hope for salvation. We know that it is obtained by grace through faith, not of works, lest anyone should boast, and given freely as a gift to all who obey him. We understand that if you do not obey him, it is made manifest or made obvious that you do not believe. In this state, you should expect no good thing from the Most High. However, anything that you do give, whether it be a gift of tongue, gift of prophecy, or any fancy new car, new job, raise, house, you know what I'm saying, cars, clothes, beautiful children, or any supernatural experience that you may have, it can and it will be used against you in the day of judgment. With that said, peace to the saints that are in the room, to the saints that couldn't make it, and the saints that's watching in on the live stream. But no peace to the wicked. The only thing we say to them is repent that they might live. All right. Let's go to Zechariah. You know what I'm saying? Last week we mentioned, we talked a little bit about, you know what I'm saying, how, you know what I'm saying, this figure at the end will come out of Turkey and Greece. And got a lot of questions on that, a lot of disputes on that, and just, I mean, some people just, you know, just wanted to know the you know what I'm saying, where'd that come from, and so, you know what I'm saying, some of them I just told them, you know what I'm saying, some other videos that I've talked about it, and then some people were just like, nah, that thing ain't right, you know what I'm saying, so we gonna kind of delve into it, try to make sure that we can show the people where we get these ideas from, then we're gonna end up going. We might spend a couple weeks on this because this thing gets super deep. It's a whole lot. But after that, we'll try to get into get back into Acts. I think we left off Acts 15. So this is Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9. It's Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9.
Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king comes unto you. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding upon the donkey, and upon the coat of the foal of a donkey. And I will cut off the chariot from Ephraim, and the horse from Jerusalem. And the battle bow shall be cut off, and he shall speak peace unto the heathen. And his dominion shall be from sea even to sea, and from the river even to the ends of the earth. And as for you also, by the blood of your covenant, I have sent forth your prisoners out of the pit, wherein is no water. Turn ye to the stronghold, you prisoners of hope. Even today do I declare that I will render double unto you. When I have bent Judah for me, fill the bow with Ephraim.
He said what now? When I have done what?
When I have bent Judah for me, fill the bow with Ephraim.
So he said, I've bent Judah. That makes Judah what?
Arrow.
Well, if he bends Judah, that makes Judah the bow, right?
Yeah, the bow.
And then he said he gonna fill the bow with who?
Ephraim.
Ephraim. So that makes Ephraim the arrow.
Right.
All right. So now he bending the bow of Judah, and then he filling the bow with Ephraim, who is the arrow. Let's see what happens next.
Raise up your sons, O Zion, against your sons, O Greece.
So he said he gonna raise up Zion's sons, which we understand to be Ephraim, which represents the northern kingdom or Israel, right? And then you also have then Judah, which represents the southern kingdom or Judah, right? So he said he gonna take their sons, which he refers to as the sons of Zion, and then he said he's gonna raise them against the sons of who?
Greece.
The sons of Greece. This thing been here the whole time. All right, been here the whole time. All right, but these are some of the things. What we're going to go over today is not necessarily saying that Greece is the main subject in all Bible and all that. That's not what I'm trying to make happen. But we are going to focus in on Greece The only reason I say that is because a lot of times people can make that happen. They can make it seem that way in the book. You isolate a certain phrase or a certain topic in the book, and then you go to a whole bunch of different places in the Bible, and you show how all these things relate, and then it'll leave a person who's not as familiar with the book to believe that that's all the book has been saying all this time, and they just completely missed it. So in some regard, we've missed it, right? Because that has been in the book, right? But in other regards, there's a whole lot of other stuff. There's a whole lot of other countries, a whole lot of other places that the Bible talks about in relation to the end of time. If we really glance and really study over what we just read, a lot of it is talking about the prophecy of Yahushua. So this is dealing with the end of times. And so he's raising our sons, right? Talking about Judah and Ephraim against Greece, right? And this is going to be a battle at the end, all right? So we see these things happen, and that's what we kind of want to go over today. We want to try to make sure that we understand why it's happening, and the reason why we're trying to make sure is not to try to predict the future, right? The reason, matter of fact, let's go to the reason. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 29. It's Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 29. I think it's the last verse. And then we're going to go back to Zechariah.
The secret things belong to the Lord our God.
So the secret things, they belong to who?
The Lord our God.
Stuff ain't none of your business.
But those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law.
So it's in the book, right?
Yeah.
That makes it revealed. Once it's revealed, it belongs to us. All right? It belongs to us. If it's revealed, if it's written in the book, that thing belongs to us. And for what reason?
For our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law.
Only so that we can obey. He gave it to us for the reason that we'll obey what the law told us to do. All right? So if you hear people using this to try to predict the future, or this is what's going to happen and this, that, and other, that's not the purpose. Right? The purpose is only for us to obey the word. It's supposed to be another sign for us that the Most High God saw it before it came and told us before it came. So when it comes, we know that this is the Most High God that told us it was going to happen.
It's real.
Right? It gives us a reason to trust him. And once we trust him, we obey the man. That's what this is about. The only reason I am I'm going to spend so much time talking about it is to show you guys that this man is real. All right? What he's telling us, what he's giving us is real. All right? Let's go back to Zechariah chapter 9. You're probably on verse 14 or something? Verse 13?
13.
And y'all look it up. When he says, start back at the verse where he say he gonna raise Judah and Ephraim versus the sons of Greece.
When I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, and raised up your sons, O Zion, against your sons, O Greece.
He said, I'll raise up your sons, O Zion, against your sons, O Greece. If you look up the word there, the Hebrew word, the original Hebrew word that's used to translate into Greece, if you look that up, it's going to say Yavan or Javan. All right? Most of y'all watching on the computer. So pause the video, because I don't want y'all to think I'm making anything up. Pause the video and just type in Javan. Javan. Pause it. Type that thing in. Once you type it in, it's going to give you results. One of the first results, or amongst the first results, is going to tell you about a Greek nation called, and it's going to look like it's pronounced Ionians. Right? It's going to be I-O-N, or it might say I-O-Y. Sometimes it's spelled a little different, but it's going to be Ionians. And even if you go to Wikipedia, it'll tell you that Javan is another pronunciation of Ionians, because the Ionians were called by Hebrews Javan or Yavan, and by the Persians they were called like Yawan or Yaan or something like that. And different nations called them all different things, but similar. When the Greeks spelled it out, it was pronounced now in English as Ionians, just because of the differences. Same way Yahushua's name It goes from Yahushua to Jesus to Jesus to Jesus. All right, so you look at all these different transliterations. That's what we look at here. It's the same thing with Yavon. All right, so Yavon is telling us it's a nation within Greece, right? And they call them Ionians. This is who the book is talking about. All right, if you do a little bit further research and you ask Google or whatever you're doing your research with, where were the ancient Ionians? Where were they? They're going to take you to a map. And on the map, they're going to take you to the west side of Turkey. All right, what's now called Turkey. They're going to take you to the west side of Turkey. So now we look at that and we say, now we understand where this ancient people was. Who the group of people that we're dealing with, we understand who we're dealing with now. It's going to be important as we go through the book. Now watch what this next verse tells us.
And the Lord shall be seen over them, and his arrow shall go forth as the lightning, and the Lord God shall blow the trumpet, and shall go with whirlwinds of the south.
All right? So you still think this? I mean, a lot of people will try to make the argument, well, Judah and Ephraim already went up against Greece, which is true. All right? We did go up against them. All right? So, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that already happened. This is a prophecy that already got fulfilled. All right? What about this next part? All right? See it say, read that verse again.
And the Lord shall be seen over them.
So then, was the Lord seen over us?
No.
Let's see.
And his arrow shall go forth as the lightning.
And did his arrow go forth just like lightning? I don't know. Let's see.
And the Lord God shall blow the trumpet.
Did he blow a darn trumpet? I don't know.
And shall go with whirlwinds of the south.
And did he go with whirlwinds of the south? I don't think so. But that sounds mighty familiar. All right? That description that we saw, it sounds mighty familiar. Let's go to Matthew chapter 24. It's Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. We're going to try to get through some stuff. I'm going to try not to do all this talking. We're just going to look at a whole bunch of words today. Y'all just got to keep up. If you know what I'm saying, you start to like get lost, just pause the video, open up the book, read it a few more times. You know what I'm saying? Send a message if you need to ask questions or anything. I'm going to try to keep my phone on, so if I get a question or two, you know what I'm saying, I'll try to look at it right now. All y'all to end up watching it. I know we start late, so I know a lot of y'all, y'all in Texas and on the East Coast. So if y'all end up watching late, then just send it to me in the morning like y'all usually do. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. Watch what he said.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven.
He gonna be where?
In heaven.
So we read in Zechariah that he gonna be above us. All right, let's see.
And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory.
All right, so that sounds just like Zechariah. What else?
And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet.
Oh, Zechariah told us about a darn trumpet too, didn't he? I wonder what's gonna happen after that.
And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
Oh my goodness! Didn't Zechariah tell he gonna be coming with the whirlwind from the south? All right, and now we see that he gonna gather us together with the four winds. All right, all these things we look at, Zechariah was telling us this was the end. All right, he telling us about something that's going down at the end. He said, "Look, Ephraim, Judah, your son's about to be rose up against Yavon and they sons. All right, and after that, the son is gonna be above us. All right, we're gonna see all these things happen. All right, and that's what we try to understand. We want to try to understand exactly what the book is trying to explain to us. All right, that way we'll know what to focus on, what not to focus on, and not be confused, because there's a lot of deception going on, a lot of stuff. Let's go to Daniel chapter 8, so we can try to get to the source of what I was talking about last week and what I've talking about many times before, about this man coming from Greece, or Yavon. He's going to be a Gentile. There's a lot of different theories. Some people say the Antichrist is going to come from America. Some people say it's going to be the Roman Catholic Pope. Some people say it's going to be the Edomites, right? It's going to be, you know what I'm saying, some of the Edomites and all that stuff. And I'm not saying any of those people have nothing to do with this. I don't know. I'm not trying to predict. I don't really know. All I'm saying is what the book is saying. And I'm going to show y'all what the book is saying. This is Daniel chapter 8. Put on verse 21. It's Daniel chapter 8, verse 21.
And the rough goat is the king of Grecia.
So he said the rough goat is the king. He's talking about a vision. So this is a vision being explained to him. We'll read the whole thing in a little bit, but let's just focus on this part first. So he said the rough goat is the king of Grecia, which is same word, Yavon. If you look it up, pause it, take a look at it. Don't believe what I'm telling you. Just look it up. All right, keep going.
And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
Uh-huh.
Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power.
So you know what's interesting? There was a man named Alexander the Great who ran the empire of Grecia, or empire of Macedonia. All right, the same, you know what I'm saying? That's pretty much the same thing, same area, same people. All right, so this man named Alexander the Great, he came on and he took over the Persians. The Persians were in rule at that time. So he got right on by them, took them over. Then after that, he died of a sickness. Some people say that he got poisoned. Some people say, you know what I'm saying, it was just a sickness. Regardless, he died of a sickness. And because he died so abruptly and he was younger, you know what I'm saying, he didn't have, you know what I'm saying, he didn't have it set up where it's like, hey, I have a son that's ready to take, you know what I'm saying, take the throne. He didn't have a son that was ready to take the throne. Only child he had that people trusted that was his child was too young. You know what I'm saying? So the child couldn't take the throne, and he didn't make up any plans of who would take the throne after him. So what came in his place were 4 of his generals. It was actually more than 4, but 4 of his generals took major parts of his kingdom. And they split his kingdom up. And they all went different directions. One to the north, one to the south, one to the west, one to the east. And they all just took it and they started to hold the kingdom. You had one in Egypt. You had one in the Turkey area. All right, you had one that took over our land and some of the things around it. So you had all these different kings, or these different these rulers that took over his nation. So look at how it describes this rough goat from Grecia. And let's see if it lines up.
Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power.
All right? So this is exactly how history plays out. It's in their history books. These people that don't even believe this book, this is exactly how they explain it. They isolate 4. It's more than 4, but they'll isolate 4 and they'll say these are the main ones. Just like the book teller. He said 4 kings gonna show up in their place, right? What else?
And in the latter time of their kingdom.
So he said in the latter time of their kingdom. I wonder what that means. He says in the latter time of their kingdom.
When the transgressors are come to the full.
When have we heard that before? When have we heard when the transgressions are come to the full? When have we heard that type of language? Yahushua talking about the Gentiles, right? When the Gentiles transgressions are full. Also from Abraham. All right? The Most High God told Abraham, you know what I'm saying, we gonna relax, you know what I'm saying? Don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna be in there 400 years. You know what I'm saying? Don't even worry about it until the sin of the Amorites have complete or full. All right, so that's what we want to look at. He's looking at fullness of sin. The same thing happened. He said that's when the end will come. Same thing Yahushua told us. All right, so let's see. Keep going.
In the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power.
He said his power shall be what?
Mighty.
And not by his what?
But not by his own power.
Oh, that's interesting. Because now we get into little facts about this individual, right? About this kingdom that's going to come up in the latter time of the Grecian kingdoms after it gets split into 4. All right, so at the end of the Grecian kingdom, after it gets split into 4, there's going to be a king that comes up, and he gonna be a mighty man, and he gonna understand dark sentences. We already talked about that before. The dark sentence represents the biblical sayings, right? It represents the mysteries of the book, the things that have been revealed to us, right? So he said he's gonna understand these dark sentences, and he said he gonna be a mighty man. But he said it's not gonna be of his own power. Let's hold what we got. We're gonna come back there. Let's go to Revelation chapter 13. It's Revelation chapter 13. It's Revelation chapter 13. We're going to start at verse 1.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea.
All right, so he stood on the sand of the sea. Then he ended up seeing a beast. And this beast, it rose up out of the sea.
Having 7 heads and 10 horns.
So this beast had 7 heads. That's very important. And it had 10 horns. Let's see. And what happened on the horns?
And upon his horns 10 crowns.
So then he had crowns on each of the horns. All right, what else?
And upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
So then he had blasphemy on top of his heads. Let's see.
And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard.
So this beast that he saw was like unto a leopard. What else?
And his feet were as the feet of a bear.
His feet was like a bear.
And his mouth as the mouth of a lion.
And his mouth was like a lion. Remember those 3. Leopard, bear, lion. Okay. What else?
And the dragon gave him his power.
And then the what gave him what? The dragon gave him his power. All right. We just read in Daniel that the man who's understand the dark speeches, he's going to have might. But he said it's not going to be of his own. All right. And it's telling us here now that the dragon is the one that ended up giving him his power. Now we got to know who the dragon is. This go back 1 chapter. This is Revelation 12. Revelation 12. Start me off at verse 7. Yeah, sit down and be quiet, boy.
And there was war in heaven.
All right.
Michael and his angels fought against the dragon.
Where it said who God was fighting?
Michael and his angels fought against the dragon.
Who was the father? I mean, because the father was probably struggling against the devil. Devil was like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like massive battle of good versus evil. And God just struggling against them.
Right.
Please. You know, God ain't struggling against nobody. He said Michael. He ain't letting a little homie take him. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, go ahead, man. I ain't getting no quarrel with him. He doing what I told him to do. Sick him. Y'all play around with each other. Y'all do that. I'm busy.
What did Joab say? Let's let the young men play.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Let the young men play. You know what I'm saying? It's like sick him. You know what you talking about? You know what I'm saying? So Michael up in there, he having a war, and the devil having a war up in heaven. Let's see what happens as a result.
And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. And prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven.
Let's hear it. We're going to figure out who this dragon is.
And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan.
So he is the serpent, and he was called the devil and Satan.
Yeah.
All right? So that's who this dragon is. Now, we just read in the 13th chapter of Revelation that this dragon gave a beast his power. All right? And we read about the beast, that the beast had traits of a leopard, had traits of a bear, and had traits of a lion. All these things are very important. We're going to have to go to it. So now we know that this dragon is Satan. The dragon gave a beast of power. We still haven't connected this beast with Greece yet. You know what I'm saying? We'll still do that. But we know for fact that a dragon gave the power, and we also know that Greece, this latter kingdom in Greece, got its power from somewhere else, because he said he's gonna have power, but it's not gonna be of his own. So let's go to actually Revelation chapter 2. Revelation chapter 2 verse 12.
But these as natural brute beasts. Wait, sorry.
It's Revelation chapter 2.
And to the angel of the church in Pergamos write, these things says he which has the sharp sword with 2 edges. I know your works and where you dwell.
He said, and where you dwell, where you live. He said, man, I know your works and I know where you live. Tell them about where they live.
Even where Satan's seat is.
He said, where whose seat?
Satan's seat.
Uh-oh. So they live where Satan's seat is. Uh-oh.
And you hold fast my name, and has not denied my faith, even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who
Right.
was slain among you where Satan dwells.
So he says Satan dwells in what city was this? The church of what?
Pergamos.
Pergamos. Guess where Pergamos is? Turkey. Modern day Turkey. Guess what side of modern day Turkey? The west side of it. Alright? Right around the same area where Wikipedia and any other research you do will tell you that the ancient people of Yavan, or Ionians, however you want to pronounce it, it'll tell you right around that same area, just north of that area, you'll find Pergamos. And that's where the book is telling us that it's the seat of Satan. Let's go back to Revelation chapter 13. Let's see if we can hear more about the seat. It's Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. And if you don't believe me, same thing. Just pause the video. Y'all can do a whole lot of pausing. Y'all who watch it on video, pause the video. Just type it in, Pergamos. You know what I'm saying? It's going to correct you because they start calling it, you know what I'm saying? They call this different, different things throughout the years. So, you know what I'm saying? It's going to take you from spelling it the way the Bible spell it to spelling it slightly different. You know what I'm saying? Same thing, though. They'll let you know it's the same thing, but they just spell it slightly different because that's what they began to call it. But if you look up Pergamos, it's going to show you exactly where it is. It's going to show you in Turkey. And compare that to what you found when you looked up Ionia. All right, you're going to see that was in the same area, all on the east side of Turkey. You know what I'm saying? Now watch what we see here. Now we're going back to the Revelations chapter 13. We're going to start right back at verse 1. And we're going to read right through and we're going to try to see if this thing makes sense.
13 what?
It's Revelation chapter 13, verse 1.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. And his feet were as the feet of a bear. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power.
And a dragon gave him his power.
And his seat.
And his seat. So whoever this beast is has the dragon seat, who we already learned is Satan, and who we just learned that his seat was in Pergamos. Right? Let's keep going. This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 1. So this is the same chapter where we just started with. We started off with Daniel chapter 8, verse 20 something, I think 24, 23, 21. So we started off with Daniel chapter 8. So we're going to get context now. We're going to read the beginning of it. I remember I told you that he was seeing a vision and the vision was being explained to him. So now we're going to read the vision for ourselves.
In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me. Even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns.
So it was a ram, and this ram had 2 horns.
And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other. And the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, But he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him.
Uh-huh.
And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore he got waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven.
All right. So here we see about this one horn being replaced by four horns again. All right. That's describing Greece, right, and the empire of Greece. So who was right before Greece? The Medes and the Persians. That's why it tells you that it was a ram with two horns, and one was larger than the other horn, because the Persians became more strong within that nation than the Medes, and they ended up taking over. Before, it was the Medes that were running the business, and they are all pretty much in the same country, but then the Medes are running everything, and then after a while they would start to incorporate the Persians into what they did. And then Cyrus came and he took over everything, and he said, you know what, we're going to be called Persians, right? He started working after the Persians. He didn't say exactly that we're going to be called Persians, but he started to represent that side of the identity of that country. And so he took over things and began to run things that way. So that's why you have two horns on this ram, but one is larger than the other. It's representing the Persians having more control and having gaining the power in that nation. All right. Then after that, you have Greece, who comes over, knocks off this ram, has one horn, but the horn got busted. All right. That's Alexander the Great dying, and then four notable horns come up. What happens next?
And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land.
Uh-huh.
And it waxed great even to the host of heaven.
It waxed great even to the host of heaven.
And it cast down some of the host and of the stars of the ground, and stamped upon them.
So, and then this thing waxed great and ended up casting down the host of heaven and ended up stomping on them. What is that talking about?
Angel.
Angels. Let's see if we can prove that out. Let's go back to Revelation chapter 12. This is Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. We're going to learn more about the dragon.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads, and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads.
Mm-hmm.
And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth.
So he drew the stars from heaven and cast them to the earth as well. Right? So this is the dragon. All right? The dragon who gave the power to this little horn. All right? Or to the beast. All right? We see that they share some of the same characteristics. All right? Let's go ahead and go. We're going to go back to Revelation chapter 13 now. It's Revelation chapter 13, verse 1.
Then I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
Mm-hmm.
And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his
leopard, bear,
and his mouth as the mouth of a lion.
A lion.
And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority.
So he gave him his power and his seat, and he gave him great authority. All right. So now let's focus in on how they describe this beast. This beast was described as a leopard, a bear, and the mouth of a lion. All right. We're going to go back to Daniel. This is Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7, verse 1. I just want y'all to see all the ways that this stuff connects.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed.
Mm-hmm.
Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 great beasts came upon from the sea, diverse one from another.
Mm-hmm.
The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings.
Mm-hmm. So we see that now. We see the lion. So the first was like a lion, but it had eagle's wings. Let's hear about
I
this.
beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet of as a man.
That's important. So now this lion, the wings was plucked from it. That thing wouldn't fly no more. Then after that, that thing just had to stand up just like a man. And what was given to it?
And a man's heart was given to it.
So then a man's heart was given to it. That's very important. Let's keep looking.
And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth, of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh.
All right. So then you had this bear raised up on one side. That's important too. So you had this bear, but one side was raised up. Okay. Let's see what else.
After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. And the beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
All right. So now you have 4 heads on this beast, right? And it was a leopard. So now we have all 3 of the animals that this beast in Revelations was described as. All 3 of them right here is different animals in Daniel. All right. And we see that it was a lion first, then a bear, then a leopard. Then Revelation describes it backwards. They describe it as a leopard, a bear, then the mouth of a lion. All right. All this is extremely important. The next thing it would tell us about a beast that couldn't be described. All right. I can't say for sure, but it seems as if that's describing the dragon, the next beast that it goes over. But let's jump over to verse 17. Watch what it say here. Look what he tells us about these 4 beasts. All right, because it was 4. We just read about 3. Because that's the ones we're going to isolate. We didn't really read about the terrible beasts that couldn't be described, right? And the other ones, it compared them to animals. The other beasts, it didn't compare it to any animals. What he saw wasn't like any animal that he seen. So he couldn't do that. That's why I think it's a dragon. All right, but we look at the 3 that he could identify, and we'll see how the person explaining it to him in Daniel 7, how it came to be. This is Daniel chapter 7, verse 17.
These great beasts which are 4 kings which shall arise out of the earth.
All right, so he told us that these beasts which Daniel saw are actually 4. They represent 4 kingdoms that are going to rise out of the earth. Right? When it says 4 kings, it's talking about kingdoms. All right, so this is 4 kingdoms that are going to rise out of the earth. What we normally look at them today as empires, right? You have these controlling bodies, right? The Bible is calling them beasts and it calls them kingdoms. So these 4 kingdoms that are going to rise out of the earth. Let's see if we can start to put some faces to these kingdoms. Daniel actually does most of this for us. So let's go to Daniel chapter 2. Well, actually, we're going to go to 2 first. Go to Daniel chapter 4 first. Daniel chapter 4, verse 28. And we're going to look at all the kingdoms, and let's see what they refer to. So remember, the first one was a lion, right? And the lion had wings like an eagle, but all of a sudden, the wings was plucked from the lion, and then the lion was made to stand up like a man. And after that, a man's heart was given to that lion. So let's see what we got here. This is Daniel chapter 4, verse 28. We're going to learn a little bit about somebody called Nebuchadnezzar.
All this came upon the king Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he walked in the place of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spake and said, is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from you, and they shall drive thee from me, and in thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whoever he will.
All right. So now there was a prophecy that came to Nebuchadnezzar telling him that all these things will happen to him, that he would go out. He going to lose his kingdom. Then he going to go out and he going to be eating grass like a darn cow. Right? Let's see what's gonna happen to his nails and stuff. Let's see.
The same hour the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers, and his
Like
nails,
what feathers?
eagle's feathers,
Oh, that's interesting. Keep going.
and his nails like birds' claws. And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lift up my eyes unto heaven, and my understanding returned unto me. And I blessed the Most High.
He did what?
I blessed the Most High.
Uh-huh.
And I praised and honored him that lives forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he does according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth, and none can stay his hand or say unto him, what are you doing?
All right. So now Nebuchadnezzar, he was made to be just like a darn beast out in the field. And his hair got so bad, it was like eagle's feathers. That's amazing because you had a lion. And this lion was made to stand up like a man. But then right after that, after he went through it, he looked up and his understanding returned to him. And he started to praise God. All right? That represents him ended up being given a heart of a man. All right? So now we see Nebuchadnezzar, he lines up with this lion, right? But then the next animal that we saw was a bear. Let's see if we can make sense of this darn bear. Let's go to Daniel chapter 5, verse 18. It's Daniel chapter 5, verse 18.
O thou king, the most high God gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would, he slew, and whom he would, he kept alive.
All right, so this is Nebuchadnezzar's, the king that took over after Nebuchadnezzar. Right? So he's telling you, like, man, your father, man, he was running the darn show. Right? And then let's see what happened.
And whom he would, he set up, and whom he would, he put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts.
All right, so he was made like a beast. He's telling them about his pops, Nebuchadnezzar. Let's see what he tell his son.
His dwelling was with the wild donkeys. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointed over it whomever he will. And thou, his son, O Belshazzar, has not humbled your heart, though you knew all this.
All right, he said, you knew this. You knew God did this to your pops. You knew all this, and you still ain't do it. He said, man, your heart's still out there. He said, man, oh, man, let's see what's going to happen.
But as lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your lords, your wives and your concubines have drunk wine in them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, hear not, nor know. And the God in whose hand your breath is, and whose are all your ways, hast thou not glorified. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and his writing was written.
Right? So all this is happening because there was some mysterious writing written on the wall. Right? And Belshazzar, he is like, oh man, I remember my pops used to always go to Daniel for, you know what I'm saying, for interpreting dreams and all this stuff. So he called Daniel out here like, man, tell me what this writing said. So Daniel, before he broke down with the writing said, he gave him this long speech like, man, look, man, you knew all this stuff happened to your pops and you still got your heart against God. You know what I'm saying? So then, let's see what Daniel going to tell us about the writing.
Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. Mene, mene, tekel, uprasin. This is the interpretation of the thing, mene. God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you are weighed in the balances and are found wanting. Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians.
Your kingdom is what?
Divided.
And given to the Medes and the Persians. Right? Notice it's the Medes and the Persians. They were together. Right? That's why you have a bear that's leaning on one side and one side was raised up. Same way that you had that ram and it had one horn bigger than the other. Both of those, each of those represent the Medes and the Persians. Because they were together. They were a group. They were one nation. But they just had two different sects or two different groups within that nation. And at different times they ruled until one took over completely, which represents the side that was raised up. And in the ram, it represents that horn that was a little bit larger. Right? And then all this happened in succession. So you had Belshazzar, that was the king of Babylon at the time. Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon. Then Belshazzar took over. And now he's talking to Belshazzar and he's telling him, well, according to God, the Medes and the Persians are about to come. And let's keep reading. Let's see if he's lying.
Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet, and put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him, that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain.
That same night, Belshazzar, the king of Chaldeans, he is what?
He was slain.
That boy got it. And I wonder who did it.
And Darius the Mede took the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
Darius the who?
Median.
The Mede, right? He came in, he took the kingdom, just like Daniel said it was gonna be. All right, and Belshazzar was done after that. That was it. All right, nothing else to it. All right. So now we have the lion. The lion we know represents Babylon, represents Nebuchadnezzar and his kingdom, and the kingdom that came after him. Then you also now have the bear, which represents the Medes and the Persians and the kings that came after them. Now we're gonna look at this this last one, this leopard. All right. So for this one, let's go to Daniel chapter 10. All right, because after the Medes came, the Medes and the Persians pretty much together. So after the Medes, then you had a Persian ruler came in. His name was Cyrus. This is Daniel chapter 10. We're going to go towards the bottom, grab verse 20.
Then said he, Knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come.
He said, who gonna come?
Prince of Greece.
So he said he's gonna fight against the prince of Persia. This is the Michael, the chief angel. Right? He's talking to us, and he's saying, man, I'm about to go and I'm about to fight the prince of Persia, the ruler of Persia. And so once I get done with the ruler of Persia, he's gonna go down. And when he go down, he said, don't worry about it. The people of Greece coming next. All right, let's keep going.
But I will show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth. And there is none that holds with me in these things but Michael your prince. Also in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia.
He's going to stir up all against the realm of who?
Grecia.
It's Yavon that he's talking about. All right? So he's going to stir up all against the realm of Yavon. All the people, they're going to stir up, and they're going to want to fight. All right? And that's exactly how it happened. Alexander the Great, he was stirred up. He came through, and he knocked over, took what he wanted out of Persia. And he took over their whole kingdom, almost their whole empire. All right? Then after that, he split into 4. Let's see if it tells us about that.
And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and to do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven.
All right, so there you go. Divided towards the 4 winds of heaven. So now that's why you have that last leper who has 4 heads. Right? It's speaking about the kingdom being divided into those 4 different places. These are the kingdoms, right? That's what we see. These are the kingdoms. So now let's go back to Daniel chapter 8, verse 24. All right, because Revelation chapter 13 said this beast it looked like a leopard. All right, it looked like a bear. It had feet like a bear. It had a mouth like a lion. All right. And he said the dragon gave him his power. All right, and then he also gave him his seat. All right, so we was looking at how this beast was described. Well, this beast was described in a way that encapsulated 3 different nations that had us captive. We're going to get back into that in a little bit. This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 24.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
He shall be broken without hand. I wonder what that could be talking about. Let's see. Let's go to Daniel chapter 2 now. If you read through Daniel, it kind of lays out the same information in different ways. All right, just so we can make it clear. This is Daniel chapter 2. This is when Daniel was introduced to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. Nebuchadnezzar didn't want to tell anybody what his dream was because he knew they would end up, when they try to interpret his dream, they end up telling him anything. And he wouldn't know if they was telling the truth or not. So he is like, you know what? I'm not going to tell anybody my dream. I want y'all to tell me what my dream was and then tell me what it meant. So they was like, man, how are we supposed to tell you what your dream was? You didn't even tell us what the dream is. Like, I can't interpret it if you don't tell me what it is. He is like, if you really can do it, you can tell me what the dream is. So then, that's where Daniel was God. And the Most High God gave him the information of what the dream was and the interpretation of the dream without Nebuchadnezzar ever having to even tell him what it was. Right? So this is when he's interpreting the dream. This is Daniel chapter 2, verse 37.
Thou, O king, art king of kings, for the God of heaven has given thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven has he given into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And
he said, Nebuchadnezzar, you're the head of gold. So he told him what the dream was. The dream was a big old statue, right? And the top of it had a head of gold, right? So he said, Nebuchadnezzar, you are the head of gold. He telling him, your kingdom is the head of gold. Let's see.
After thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to you, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaks in pieces and subdues all things. And as iron that breaks all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken.
So you see, it's giving you all the same sets of kingdoms, right? You have Nebuchadnezzar, the one who comes after Nebuchadnezzar is the Medes and the Persians. After the Medes and the Persians, then you get Grecia, and after Grecia came Rome. And so he's laying out all these different kingdoms. Watch what he tells us about that last kingdom.
And whereas thou saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay.
All right, so you know what was interesting about the Romans? When they started their empire, when Alexander the Great was running things, it was Greeks, right? The Greeks, they came from the country of Greece, you know what I'm saying, and a little bit in that area, and that's who they were, all right? When Romans took over, they had what's called democracy, all right? So they had people that voted, and they put elected officials in, and then after that, they ended up, because of war times, voting in an emperor, right? But even when they had the emperor, a person who had full control, they still had a senate where you had to vote and you put the senate in, and the senate could stop the emperor if they wanted to, right? So it's almost like a president, right? It's not quite the same thing, but almost similar to how we have our president set up. The way that they set this stuff up here is they looked at what Rome did and they said, okay, how can we improve on it, right? And so they tried to balance the power a little bit better, all right? So that was the interesting part about Romans. Romans mingled themselves with all men because you didn't have to be technically Roman to be a citizen of Rome. right? You could be a citizen of Rome no matter where you from, as long as Rome took over your country in that way. Now, Rome didn't take over every single country, even if they had jurisdiction or rule over them. For instance, you have us. They took over our land and they had rule over our land, but we weren't citizens of Rome. You know what I'm saying? Our people weren't citizens of Rome. We had to pay taxes, and we had to do a whole lot of stuff, but we weren't actual citizens of Rome. That's why you have Paul, when he was speaking, with the Hebrews and everything. Then you have one of the centurions that looked at him and they was treating him wrong. He was like, man, I'm a citizen of Rome. I'm from Tarshish. And the centurion was like, oh, hold on, let me relax. Because a citizen of Rome had certain rights. Well, Tarshish technically is not in Rome, right? But that was a territory of Rome and they took it over. So they considered the people that were born there or the people that got citizenship there as citizens. So they mingled themselves with other men, all different types of people, right? They let themselves actually have different types of people as an actual part of their nation, not just somebody that they're ruling and they're taking over. They were an actual part of their nation. They allowed them to be in the fabric, right? So this is what this is referring to with Rome. Keep going.
And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven...
In the days of when?
These kings.
So in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven do what?
Set up a kingdom.
He's going to set up a kingdom. Who is he talking about?
Yahushua.
Talking about Yahushua. That's why when Yahushua came, first thing he said is, the kingdom is nigh. The kingdom is at hand. All right? He is the kingdom. So that's when the kingdom was set up, in the days of those kings, because Rome was ruling at that time. All right? So in the days of those kings, the kingdom was set up. And let's see what else happens.
Which shall never be destroyed.
And that kingdom shall never be destroyed. Was Yahushua destroyed?
No.
No. He rose again on the third day, and then he went where?
To the right hand of the Father.
To the right hand of the Father. So Yahushua was not destroyed. Right? People will look at this and they like, see, this is the end of the world. No, this part already happened. It was already a kingdom set up. It went to the right hand of the Father. Right? Now let's look. Now we're about to talk about the end.
But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
Right? In the end, he comes back and he breaks in pieces all these kingdoms, and it's going to stand forever. Tell us about it.
For as much as thou saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands.
The stone was cut out of the mountain without what?
Hands.
Does that sound familiar?
Absolutely.
We just read in Daniel chapter 8 that this man that comes out of Grecia, right, that comes in the ladder of the kingdom, he's going to be destroyed without hands. Right? And so now he's telling us they're going to be destroyed without hands. Keep going.
In that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great God has made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure.
Mm-hmm.
And King Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. All
right. So Nebuchadnezzar, he is thoroughly impressed by what he just heard. All right. Let's go to Revelations. I'm going to go to Revelations chapter 19. Let's see if we can get something else without hands. It's Revelation chapter 19, verse 19.
And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse.
Oh, who is him that sat on the horse?
The Messiah.
It's Yahushua. This is when he returns. So they made war. They came to make war against the one that sat on the horse, which is the Messiah, Yahushua. Let's see what else.
And against his army.
Mm-hmm.
And the beast was taken.
It's amazing that Yahushua is going to come with an army. I don't know. Maybe he's raising up the sons of Judah as a bow and raising up the sons of Ephraim as a arrow. And he's raising up their sons against your sons, O Grecia, just like we started off with. I don't know. Maybe it's possible. Maybe he's using them as a bow and arrow because they came against him and his army. Let's see.
And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image.
And let's see how Yahushua was taking these people.
These both were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse.
So they had slain with the sword of him that sat up on the horse. Watch this.
Which sword proceeds out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh.
They got killed with his words, not with hands. Right? Not with hands. You looking at sword. Oh, see, it was a sword. Nah, then he said, now the sword proceeded out of where?
Out of his mouth.
That sword came from his mouth. He said, I ain't touching you in my hand. He had to fulfill prophecy. He said he's not going to be killed with hands. Right? Let's jump back over into Daniel chapter 8. It's Daniel chapter 8, verse 20. Let's do 24. It's Daniel chapter 8, verse 24. Again, I'm not saying that all this thing is all about, the people, the ancient people of Greece and Yavon, and I'm just letting you know that those ancient people were in Turkey, what we call today Turkey. You know what I'm saying? The seed of Satan is what we call today Turkey. And we see that it was given to this beast, the seed of Satan, and the power of the dragon was given to this beast. All right, and we see that this beast had the characteristics of all the nations. Well, I don't want to say all. It had the characteristics of 3 nations that Daniel told us took us over. 3 nations. And I'm going to show y'all it's more than those 3 too in a second. All right, so this is Daniel chapter 8, verse 24.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper in practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also shall he cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many.
He said he's going to destroy many by peace. What else?
He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
So we just saw that in Revelations it told us that this man was going to go to war against the Messiah, the one on the horse, and his armies. Right here, it's saying that he's going to stand up against the prince of princes, and he's going to be what?
Broken without hand.
That's because the sword going to come right out of his mouth. Let's keep going. Let's see.
And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days.
He said it's going to be for what?
Many days.
That's for everybody who look at this like, oh, no, that already happened. Because, you could look at it and be like, man, that might have already happened. Right? Maybe it was a king that came out of Grecia already who started problems, and there were. All right, there were kings that came out. We had one king in our land in the book of Maccabees that made us do a whole lot of vow stuff to our temple, and that's what a lot of these people think it is, right? But he said, shut it up because it's gonna be for what?
For many days.
Maybe many days. You never know. Many days could be 100 days, a couple days. Let's back up a little bit. Give me verse like 17.
So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision.
He said, at the time of what?
The end.
He said, you looking at a vision that's going to be at the time of the end. Let's see what else he said.
Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last...
In the what?
In the last end of the indignation.
The last end of the indignation. What else is that?
For at the time appointed...
The what?
The time appointed, the end shall be.
The end? How many times he going to tell us it's going to be at the end? All this we looking at. He said, what you're looking at is happening at the end. When we saw this horn that popped up out of the four horns, and it told us the latter end of their kingdom, it's talking about the second part of their kingdom. All right? They're going to have two parts of their kingdom. You have Alexander the Great. You have the four horns that came out, his four generals that came out after that. Then they're done. Right? Because if we go back on this wall, let's take a look at it. All right, we're going to look at all our kingdoms. So we had Egypt. Egypt took us over first. All right? That happened around this area. All right, it's like a timeline. Y'all ain't going to be able to see it all that good on the camera. But that happened around this area. All right? 2000 BC, around that area, all the way to about like 17,000 BC. 1700 BC. So you have Egypt. Then after that, Assyria came in. So after this, it's pretty constant. It started like about 900. You know what I'm saying? 900 BC. And then it's constant. We getting ruled by somebody. So Assyria, they took the northern kingdom. All right, took the northern kingdom out. Then after that, you have Babylon that came right after them. Right after them, the Medes and the Persians. Right after that, you have Greece. And then after that, you have Rome. And after that, you have the Ottoman Empire. All right? So we're going to focus right here, right where Rome come. All these came in succession. There's one after another. We got kicked out when Rome was running. This is where Yahushua died. And this is where the temple was. So after Yahushua rose, the temple got destroyed in 70 AD. Rome was ruling at that time. All right, so this is all Rome. So this is when we got kicked out of the land. While we were in the land, these are all the nations that took over us, that actually had us, either exiled us or they had us as captive. Right? This is while we're in the land. This is before we were in the land. Egypt had us. Right? So these are all the nations that would have been related to us up until this time. Now watch what we're about to read. This is Revelation chapter 17. This is Revelation chapter 17. Give me about verse 7. This is Revelation chapter 17, verse 7.
And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns.
So there's a whole lot of other players in this. I'm not trying to tell y'all that Greece is the only one playing in this. Or the people of Yavan, the ancient people of Yavan, the only players in this. Excuse me, it's a whole lot of people playing. You had a woman who's Mystery Babylon, who they say is riding on the beast. All right, so it's a whole other monster that's on top of the beast. Right? So we have Mystery Babylon, right? And then you have a few other. You have a beast that actually gave way to another beast and gave life to an image. And then you also had a dragon that gave life to both of those. So there are different players in this whole shebang. I'm just trying to let y'all know what the book is saying according to Greece. All right? So keep going.
And the angel said unto me, Wherefore did thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns.
All right, so this beast has 7 heads and 10 horns. We talked about that. Let's learn a little bit about it, though. Let's see if we can get this broken down a little bit.
The beast that you saw was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit.
That's very important. Pay attention to what he just told us. It was, so the beast that we saw, it used to be. He's telling us this is a beast that was in the past, is currently not. So was, is not. So it used to be, and it's now not current. Right? And it shall, so I mean in the future, is going to ascend out of the bottomless pit. All right, keep going.
And go into perdition.
Go into perdition, that means punishment. All right, so it's going to go into punishment.
And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world.
The ones who's not written in the book of life, they ain't going to know what's going on. Because the mysteries is written down. The ones is, he said the secret things, they belong to the Lord. But everything that's revealed, he said that belong to us and our children. All right? If they not part of us and our children, they just going to be darn wondering. All right? That stuff is not going to be revealed to them. Let's see. Keep going.
When they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is.
So the beast that used to be, currently is not, and yet is. Let's just hold on right there and let's try to think about it. When was this written? Who was ruling at the time that this was written?
Rome.
Rome was ruling. So we're going to look around this time period, right? It was written right here around this time period, right before the temple was destroyed. Rome was in rulership. So if Rome was in rulership, then it was a nation that already was. It was a kingdom that already was, and then yet is. So that means it's something that it's from the past, and it's going to end up coming again. So if we talk about all the nations that had us in the past, we have to be talking about Greece, Medes, Babylon, Assyria, or Egypt. All right, so just keep that in mind. It has to be one of these because those are the ones that came before. Let's keep reading.
And there is the mind which has wisdom. And
he said, here is the mind that has wisdom.
The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits.
Uh-oh. Break it down for us.
And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen and 1 is.
Uh-oh. So he said 7 kings, total number, 7 kings. 5 of those kings have already fallen, and 1 what?
Is.
So 1 of them is right now. Right? 1 of them still going. 5 of the kingdoms have already fallen, and 1 of them is going right now. How many heads is that going to take care of for us?
6.
6 of them. So let's count these things out. We have Egypt. Egypt already fell at that point. All right, that's 1. You have Assyria. Assyria already fell at that point. That's 2. You have Babylon. Well, that's 3. They already fell. You have the Medes and Persia. They already fell. That's 4. You have Greece. That's 5. He said 5 have already fallen. Right? Then you have Rome, who yet is. Right? Or not yet is, who is. Right? So Rome was currently going at that time. Let's see what else we got here.
The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits, and there are 7 kings. 5 have fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come.
He said, and the other one, the 7th one, is not yet come. Watch what he tells us in this next verse.
And when he comes, he must continue a short space.
Mm-hmm.
And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th.
So he told us the beast that was and is not, so it can't be Rome. Rome is X'd out. So all the people that are like, oh, it's a Roman Catholic Church. I'm not saying that they don't have a part in all this. I'm just saying when we talking about this beast, it's definitely not Rome. Because Rome was a part. It was there at that time. He said, and it is not. So whatever this was has to be one of these 5 nations that came before. And of the 5 nations that came before, which one has prophecy that a horn is going to come out in the latter time of the kingdom at the end? Only Greece. So Greece is a kingdom that was, at the time, is not, and the book saying yet is. All right, we don't have any prophecy like that for the Medes, any prophecy like that for Babylon. We have Babylon saying mystery Babylon, right? So we know Babylon has something to do with the woman that's riding on top of the beast, but we don't have any prophecy that it's going to come back. We have Assyria, right? Nothing from Assyrians, and you have Egypt. But you do have prophecy from Daniel saying that the horn is going to come out of these other 4 horns in the latter time of the kingdom. That means this kingdom is going to get somehow revived. All right? So let's keep looking. Keep going.
And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he said unto me, the waters which you saw where the whore sits are peoples and multitudes of nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which you saw upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory.
All right.
And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen,
All right.
and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit.
All right. So we look at it and we see that this beast carries Babylon, but the beast itself is not going to like Babylon. And it's actually going to be the cause of Babylon's fall. All right. So it's not going to be as simple as this one world government that everybody kind of preaches. It's going to be a system that implodes on itself. You're going to have this beast that carries characteristics of what we saw in all the nations that had taken us over. It's going to carry that lineage. Egypt. We're going to carry Assyria. We're going to see Medes and Persians, Greece, and then Rome. All right, all worked into this thing. Then there is another kingdom that came after. Maybe that's referring to the Ottoman Empire. Maybe, maybe not. I can't tell you for sure. Now, I don't know. But that is another kingdom that came in quick succession right after Rome. So that could be the seventh head, right? But then the eighth is one that was, at the time, is not, and then also yet is. So the eighth has to come after that. And that's going to be the last kingdom that comes. All right? So if we look at the evidence based off of the book, we know that a king is going to come in the end from what the Bible calls Yavan. Yavan, the ancient people, were in Turkey. You know what I'm saying? The Ottoman Empire, that was also in Turkey. All right? So we look at it, and you can look at it however you want, but these things are facts based off of what the book is saying. There will be someone from Yavan, and it will cause our people to be against the people of Yavan. All right, but you also have Babylon in there. All right, you also have a remnant of a remnant of the Medes and the Persians that come in the end also. So they're also talked about too. So all these different nations are talked about. Not all of them, but some of these nations are talked about in the end as well. So it's not just as simple as just saying it's one thing or another. Just letting you people know that it is definite that there is going to be a component of Yavan, which used to be in Turkey, or is now what we call Turkey, and that is going to play a role in the end times in the battle of what's called the Battle of Armageddon. So we're gonna go a little deeper into it. We're gonna wrap it up for tonight, but we're gonna go a little deeper into it maybe next week, where we talk about some of the time periods, what the Bible is talking about the time periods, what the Bible talks about the Battle of Armageddon, all the people coming together, all the people going against each other, and talk a little bit more about the beast and Babylon, mystery Babylon, what it has to do with. A lot of people think it's the Edomites and everything like that, so we'll play around with that idea, see what the Bible says about the Edomites. A lot of disputes in the you know what I'm saying, the Hebrew congregations out here about who the Edomites are. Are they the white man? Are they the Arabs? Are they this? Are they that? So we'll talk about it. We'll try to break it down in the book, and we'll see how all that stuff plays in and what the book has to say about it. All right? Any questions? All right, let's pray out.